Good morning, everyone. We'll just give a couple more minutes to allow people to join this session. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this session, which we're concentrating on how to streamline your business and create a second to none experience for your guests, which is obviously what we all want to do. So we're looking at the benefits of adopting simple and affordable technology to save you time, increase your revenue, and increase your guest experience. Essentially, we're looking at how to spend less time running your business so you can spend more time growing your business and maybe spending it with your families. The talk is going to be recorded and is going to be available on the ASSE members page after this session. I'd love to welcome today Steve Davis from Aperto, Humphrey Bowles from Superhog, and Sebastian Leitner from Cloudbeds. Steve is a 25-year veteran of the technology industry, having built and scaled numerous startups along the way. Humphrey is on a mission to solve the trust and protection gap of 250 million short-term rental hosts, owners, and property managers. Superhog combines guest screening with embedded insurance. Sebastian's team partners with solution providers, guest experience and engagement tools, distribution partners, and new technologies that enhance the guest stay. Steve's in the States, so the body of this session has been recorded, and it'll be followed by a Q&A session with one of Steve's team and also a member from Cloudbeds team who are working from a slightly more agreeable time zone. So what we've done is we've recorded the body of the session, and Stephanie, you're going to share the screen any second now. Do put any questions in the chat box and we'll have a Q&A at the end. Stephanie, over to you.
Good morning, gentlemen. Lovely to have you here. My name is Steve Davis. I'm the CEO of Aperto Guest Technologies here in Vancouver, Canada. We are a property automation.
Definitely, we're not seeing your screen yet.
Short-term and vacation rental markets. We were lucky enough.
The wonderful world of technology. Ah, that's better. That's great. Stephanie, go for it. Play.
We are a property automation specialist working in the short-term and vacation rental markets. We were lucky enough to be on the show a few weeks ago to chat to you about all things technology. We're going to continue that conversation today, but I've managed to recruit two gentlemen who are far more intelligent and up to speed on what is going on in this whole market. I've got here with me Humphrey Bowles, the CEO of Superhog, and I've got Sebastian Leitner, who is the VP of Strategic Partnerships at Cloudbeds. Gentlemen, it's lovely to have you. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be here.
For having us. Brilliant. So I'm going to just let you guys give the crowd a little bit of a background on yourselves. Tell us a little bit about what you do, who you are, and the state of play, and we'll start the conversation from there. So Humphrey, why don't you kick us off?
Cool. Thanks, Steve. So I'm on a mission to solve the trust and protection gap within short-term rentals. Superhog combines guest screening with insurance, and it's all delivered as a SaaS solution, which you can integrate either pre or post booking. And I guess to put my stall out with technology, I think tech is all about creating lean and efficient processes. So that is how tech can help. But look forward to discussing in more detail shortly.
Brilliant, Sebastian.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. Cloudbeds is a hospitality management platform that combines operations, revenue management, distribution, growth, marketing tools into a single sort of platform, if you will. We power more than 22,000 properties worldwide in 157 countries. We're headquartered in San Diego, California, where the sun is almost always shining. But I'm calling you from cold and rainy Montreal, Canada. Thank you very much for having me, Steve.
Brilliant. And I assure you over here in Vancouver, on the other coast, it is just as dire from a weather perspective, but that's neither here nor there. So gentlemen, I want to talk about, to start, I think one of the things or misconceptions in the market is that humans can be replaced by technology. And I think that, we get asked a lot here at Aperto is, if I spend money on all these fancy tools and all these fancy devices and all these fancy processes, does that mean that I don't need to have humans that are involved in my business anymore? Can I start to phase those out? And how do I find that balance? And how do I find that balance between sort of technology and sort of the human touch? And I think Humphrey, I'd love to kick off with you. What's your sort of take on that in terms of finding that balance and making sure that the guest does have that level of personalization when they stay at a property?
I mean, Steve, look, I'm a massive fan of tech, okay? For me, tech is about replacing humans, but it's not about replacing the actual beings. It's about replacing human error. It's about giving those people the tools that they need to make better decisions quicker. And I think that, what guests want is they want instant access. What tech can deliver is instant access. That's the brilliant thing about it. And there are millions of guests out there, all who need questions answered, issues solved, rooms being let into, identity verifications done, all at the click of their fingers. And tech allows that, like tech has enabled that. So we should celebrate that, not for getting rid of the beings, but for simply enabling us as individuals and as workforces.
Absolutely. Sebastian, you got anything on that?
Sure. Yeah, something that I would never want to replace with a machine is a conversation between a host and a guest, right? I mean, this is for me sort of where hospitality really comes to life. It's sort of the personal exchanges that we have as hoteliers or as hosts with our guests. However, there are plenty of opportunities to look at tasks that are repetitive, that happen every single day, multiple times. And we view as technology as a tool to automate and simplify these repetitive tasks so that we can focus on the conversations we want to have with our guests about their experiences, about where they're traveling to, where they're going next, etc., and really creating memories both for us as hosts and hoteliers or for the guests that are staying at our properties.
Absolutely. I think one of the most interesting things we've seen over the last sort of 18 months, and I think it's been really brought forward a lot by COVID, is that, the digitally native traveler is here. And I think that the generation who, grew up with the internet in their pocket is now the modern day business traveler. And so I think that the level of expectation is very much, if I want to access the technology, that I can. But if I still want that sort of human touch where someone greets me at the front door or some sort of happy medium in there, that there's also that need as well. So I think, when I hear people sort of going all in and just jumping in the deep end and saying, okay, enough of this, I want to completely change the way I do my business, we always err on the side of caution and say, how do we actually start to put in the pieces that actually enable a magical guest journey, right? From the moment that they book all the way through to the moment that they come back and they return home from their vacation. How can we ensure that the technology is put in thoughtful places so that it just makes that guest journey really seamless? And I think that, you guys both made some great points there. There's, as a small operator, and I think that this is, as the ASSC is very, when we look at the sort of market we're talking about, it's really difficult to pick technologies. I think, if you're looking at property management system, you're looking at, guest verification, you're looking at IoT solutions, you're looking at all the different things. How does one even start to make method of the madness? How do they, sort of pick or start to even put these pieces together? Because if I was a non-digitally native person, I would struggle if I went to one of these, vacation rental trade shows and you stand there and there's 500 vendors. I mean, where does someone start? Humphrey?
I think you start at the beginning. And the beginning is, how much money can I make? And therefore, one of the most important things for you to do is to look at how you're able to optimize your pricing, how to optimize your pacing, how to make the most out of seasonality curves, how to, to build some smart tools. Because simply, a small operator does not have the thousands of hours of research and analysis needed in order to make the right pricing decisions. So that's where I would start. And then the next bit is, what if something goes wrong? And therefore, you've got to put in place some tech in order to make sure that you're able to know who your guests are. Once you have got those two questions sorted, it's then all around you. It's all around your life. It's about how, your business can be optimized. And, there are little things that can make a big difference on the top line. So for instance, door entry, not having to check everyone in person. That's huge. Communicating with guests efficiently, that's huge. But that's where I would start. I would start with, optimizing, using tech to optimize revenue, because that is what will give your business the ability to go further.
Well, if we look at optimizing from the beginning of the guest journey, there's no one better in the business than Cloudbeds at that. So, Sebastian, maybe you could pick up on that and run us sort of through how someone would, optimize technology like yourself, your technology to really start that technology journey.
Yeah, thank you. And we power websites, booking engines, marketing, advertising, right from top of the funnel, where we bring top of the funnel, the guests down to your actual property, ideally, where they use a product such as Operto and Humphrey's product, a Superhog, to actually, check in and arrive and stay. We always feel that when looking for the best possible fit, it's about two things, and Humphrey touched on that as well. One is, who understands me best, right? Who can I have a conversation with that understands my needs, my problems, my solutions, and has already fixed the solution and the problems that I may have for similar customers than I am, right? Or for similar properties than I am. So who understands my needs the best is something, because, as a individual owner or as a small business, I may have very specific needs and requirements that are very different from large enterprise accounts and large enterprise providers and brands, if you will. So who understands my need the most? And then I think Humphrey alluded to this very well. Who will have my back? Who will be there for me when things break? And I think we all want to say that they never do, right? That everything always works. But sometimes there is something that is disrupting the communication flow, or there's a user that is lost in a screen and doesn't know where to go. Who provides that support, that extra assistance throughout the process to really help me leverage the technology that I've invested in, so that we make most use or best use of the platform. And for us, these are sort of the two things that we feel we do extremely well. But it's also something that I want to be challenged against. So, these are some of the things that I would want a prospect to really, push us for providing clarity and information around, what does your support look like? How do you help properties in need when that happens? And what can I expect from you throughout the process of being a customer? And that's extremely important. Steve?
Yeah, I think that those are, fantastic points. I think that it's, as much as we think that a lot of the technology is brilliant and it's going to solve all your problems, there's still that need for the human element. And I think that's at Operto, that's really where we try and differentiate ourselves, is that at the end of the day, human error happens. So we have, in our world, we have things like, we'll have a base station or some sort of technology in the room, and someone will unplug it so that they can plug in their cell phone to charge it. And what that does is that can take the system down. There are human error pieces where you need to have a human pair of hands behind the scenes that can actually help you get things back on track. And I think, those are really good points. The other thing I think you brought up there is it's this notion about, integrations, versus partnerships. And I think that this is something I'd love to unpack with you guys. If you're a small operator and you try to look into the technology landscape and go, okay, well, which pieces do I want to tie together, or which pieces do tie together? How does one start to even have those conversations? I think, is it all about have these vendors work together? Is there a working relationship? Or is it best to go to sort of a trusted relationship, or do you think it's more advantageous to look for potentially cost savings or some other reason to choose your own technology stack? And I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
You want me to take a stab at that?
Sure. That'd be great.
Okay. No, I'd be happy to. Look, from an integration perspective, we're a very open designed or openly designed architecture and infrastructure, which means that anyone can build to our specifications and our APIs and create a point solution. But these are not necessarily the integrations and connections that we promote to our partners and our customers. We work with Operto and Humphrey and Superhog in a very different way, and we call them partners for a reason. And the way we do this is we learn our partners' products and services inside and out, and we do demos on both sides. We optimize workflows. We are trying to understand end to end how the partner system works with our system to ensure that we can anticipate any potential pitfalls in the guest journey or how the user interacts with the product, and that's extremely important for us. So we spend a significant amount of time understanding each other, creating content for both our partners as well as our end users, so that they can leverage the products that work very closely together. We used to think of integrations and connectivity. For us, this is really a partnership. This is two players coming together and creating ideally something that is better than the single pieces on their own. So it's a critical team and a critical component of what we do at Cloudbeds.
Absolutely. I think, just in this instance, having partners that have worked together on multiple projects together and understand each other's workflows is very, very important when you're looking at making the sort of leap into the technology world, because at the end of the day, there's no technology companies out there that offer everything, right? That can do everything, from end to end perfectly. And I always warn potential clients that if you find someone that is claiming that they can do it all, one-stop shop, that's just not the truth. And so, Humphrey, I'd love to kind of hear your thoughts on where Superhog fits in and sort of how you guys work with your partners to ensure that you get great results.
I mean, Steve, Seb, I totally agree with you guys. Unfortunately, that I think partnerships is everything, and then especially when you're looking at smaller property managers, and really picking up on what you guys have said previously. I think a lot of guys are scared of tech. I think you've got to acknowledge that a lot of people are actually scared of technology and what it can do. And I think you can present arguments to customers and say, look, this is going to generate you £30,000 more income a year. And they won't go for it because they're scared of using tech. And I think everyone out there who's scared of using tech, I totally get it. I really understand it. And, you're right to be nervous. Who is not afraid of stuff going wrong? But where we are better together is that we're able to simplify that process for you right down to make it easy and simple to be applied. And the real benefit of companies like Operto, Superhog, Cloudbeds working together is it means that when you want to implement something, it can be done seamlessly without any extra friction for you or for your customers. So, it's the benefit is for you. Now, that is, that is something which we all work really hard behind the scenes to make happen. And I really hope that, everyone is going to really feel the benefit of. But that in a nutshell, that is it for me, Steve.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think, again, providing that soft landing for someone who's, moving from sort of the analog to the sort of digital world, and ensuring that, that we can provide those solutions, and that when that support call comes in at, midnight on a Sunday or some, obscure evening, that normally a human wouldn't pick up the phone. I think that understanding those workflows and ensuring that, if ABC has gone wrong, that this is where the problem gets solved, and if DEF goes wrong, that this is where the problem gets solved. And I think, working with partners, I mean, if the three of us were to turn on a property today, a 20-room property, we would know that if something went wrong, where we would troubleshoot and get that problem solved instantly without actually having to bring in any sort of external information or whatever. We would just have that handled. Humphrey, I want to just pop over to you. I know that the whole securing one's property and ensuring that guests are good guests and not bad actors, and ensuring that people's assets are protected, and that a guest is who they say they are. This is becoming more and more of an issue, now with COVID sort of wrapping up, and we've got a lot of revenge travel, as they call it, happening, and people really eager to get on planes, trains, and automobiles and go out and explore the world again. What are you seeing out there in terms of the changing sort of traveler profile, and how are you helping folks such as like the ASSC membership navigate those waters, because it's a different landscape than it was pre-COVID, and it's only going to continue along this path. So I'd love to hear from you.
So I think that we are currently going through a super exciting time for the industry. We're seeing a ton of new guests wanting to come and stay in short-term vacation rentals, and that is brilliant. But you're also seeing a lot of people who don't quite get short-term rentals, whose expectations are different, who are wanting something a little bit different, maybe to what they're used to. And you're also, unfortunately, always going to get guests who are going to take advantage of them. They are there to milk the system, whether that be from putting through chargebacks, to organizing parties, to, quite frankly, just turning up and not looking after a property. And the really disappointing thing is that this isn't just teenage kids. It's not your 18-year-olds. It is across your spectrum. I wish I could say to you, never accept a booking from a 43-year-old, but you can't. It doesn't work like this.
Yeah.
And people behave differently depending on who they're traveling with. And therefore, what we are able to do is to actually help provide you with real peace of mind before a stay begins, that guest who you don't know is going to look after your property. And the game-changing thing is that we are able to use our technology to help you do that without you doing anything at all. And it is not about going, I've got insurance, it's fine, I've used Airbnb loads, nothing's ever gone wrong. Because, it's what about is going to happen in the future rather than what has happened. And, through my own experience of hosting, I know that, that unless your tech is actually picking up the necessary flags, you can end up with the wrong people set. Mm-hmm. So, that's what we're able to do. That's where we're able to help, and we're able to do it seamlessly.
Yeah, I think when we look at Operto, for sure, I think one of the fastest growing needs for smaller operators is noise and occupancy monitoring tools, right? So we look at a partner of ours like a NoiseAware, who we all work with, who've done brilliant work to develop devices that just pick up those warning signals early and can actually solve 90% of all noise complaints and issues within one text message to the guest. And I think that's sort of a good example of a brilliantly simple technology that does kind of get to the core of the problem very quickly, and enables and ensures that that the bad actors are weeded out quickly as possible, and you're not disturbing your neighbors. You don't get dragged up in front of the strata council to revoke your host your hosting status. So I think there's a number of things there. Sebastian, I'd love to know what are the things that are on Cloudbed's horizon in terms of this stuff? Is there anything you'd love to chat about on what we're discussing?
Yeah, I mean, look, for us, Superhawk has a great product that allows you to verify and validate the identity, the personality of the traveler. We spend a lot of time and effort on payment and fulfillment, if you will, to make sure that you can do this in a meaningful way at a low cost and capture I guess payment information and authorization way before the guest actually arrives. And we view that as a big opportunity to integrate very seamless into the guest journey, whether that booking is made on your website or whether that booking comes in through a travel agency. It doesn't really matter. And it feeds very nicely into what you guys are doing. One of the best practices that we hear from a lot of hosts around sort of how do we make people feel more comfortable about actually, or more responsible, let's put it this way, more responsible at staying in some, in Humphrey's accommodation where he had a bad experience, is to communicate and engage with that customer early on, right? To, make him feel welcome, make him feel engaged, and show that you're present and that you're there, and that may stop him or her from organizing something. So we get a lot of hosts that basically say we can diffuse a situation early on by just being visible and being there. Just because there's not a reception doesn't mean that we're not around, if you will, and apparently that is helping.
Yeah, I mean, we have at Operto, we've got a guest application that's, as soon as we have confirmed the booking, we issue this, and we can actually tie not only the sort of safety of the guests to that product, but also having that communication with the guest, saying, hey, welcome. I see you're arriving in a few days. These are some things to do, while you're in town, or these are places to eat or things to experience. Having that level of communication, we find, is also leading to less incidences down the road, right? So where the guest is aware that there's actually a human or a group of humans behind this property who not only want you to have an amazing stay and ensure that you leave a 5-star review and have nothing but good things to say to your friends, but on the other side that they understand that like, we really want you to take care of our place, and we don't, we want it to be a respectful stay. We want everyone to have a really great experience, and we want this to happen again. So, I think we're going to continue to see a proliferation of tools which will allow for not only the guest experience to be great just through technology, but it's going to be about how do we make sure that those communication lines are open, and that there's no the guest is benefiting. And at the same time, the owner operator is benefiting as well. And we're talking again, and this is always the thing, is about the cost, right? I mean, we're not talking about huge sums of money here to make these things come to life. I'd love to know what you guys think in terms of, for those folks that are sitting at home going, yeah, but how much does this stuff all cost, right? Like, what's the payoff matrix look like? What is should I be doing this? I don't know if either one of you want to take that question on, around like, at which point does that cost curve and the convenience curve kind of cross, and folks go, you know what, this makes the most sense. I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a Brit. My mum and dad live in Scotland, so I'm pretty fond of the Scots. But I'm gonna, as a great man once said, give some straight whiskey here. Like, people in the UK as a whole are so worried about spending money on technology because they are so scared that they are losing money for paying for something they don't need. And that mindset has to change. So come on, guys, it has to change. You will make more money by spending some money on technology. I know that is a really weird thing to say, unless you're in the United States, but by spending some cash on tech, you will make more money. Like, we will be able to put the numbers there which show you operational savings. Superhog in itself will make you money over the course of a year, rather compared to what you would spend with us. And we can show you the numbers which will make that, we'll show that to make that sense. But there is, being serious, there is a real difference at the moment between the UK kind of mindset and the US mindset, where the US gets that if you spend $5,000 on technology, you then might get 30 grand return on investment on that over 5 years. In the UK, we struggle to see it in those terms. But ultimately, you will invest in tech, you will get the benefit back. And I know, Seb, you're going to back me up on that, aren't you?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Look, I mean, our pricing is very transparent. We charge per room unit or by inventory unit. So if you're a small provider, the pricing is accordingly. And if you're a larger provider, it just becomes, but the per unit cost is fairly linear. We also have different packages and different value propositions. We feel so confident about our value proposition, our return of investment, that if you want to start using cloud beds, you're more than welcome to do that, and you can leave at any point in time. And we have a very easy out. But we feel, that most of our customers will stick around because they will see immediately the benefits from our platform. And that usually translates into our tagline, which is more reservations and happier guests. If you manage everything in one central place, you are in real time synchronizing with Airbnb, with Booking.com, with Expedia, with Google, etc. And that provides you immediate exposure that you may not be otherwise getting as well. So we feel very comfortable about that value proposition, and no, it's not a Rolls Royce that you're buying and committing yourselves to. But it is something that, to Humphrey's point, it is costing, and you need to look at it as a tech investment, but challenge us on the return. And I'm very happy to have that conversation with you.
Steve, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, please.
When you're talking to someone and they're like, look, I love my key box. I love key boxes. They don't go wrong. They're the most secure key boxes there. How do you then start the conversation going, look, there's a better way of doing this?
Listen, the straight up reality is that key boxes aren't great, and that humans can mess those up as well. Where we find Operto really comes into its own is at that point where a property manager wants to scale from 2 to 5 to 10 to 20 doors, and they're sort of on that linear curve, and they said, you know what, the old school lockbox example, it's not scalable. And if you want to grow your business, the fastest, most cost-efficient way to do it is actually with technology. And I love both of your guys' points around, seeing is believing. Dip your toe into that pool. It's not about, oh, I'm going to go down with my checkbook and cut a 10,000 pound check and it's going to be money burned and I hope it all works out. We're talking about tools, which, especially when you're talking pre-stay. So now we're talking choosing the right PMS provider, choosing, your guest verification service, and even your guest messaging service. So taking all of the other fancy stuff out, IoT, smart sensors, smart locks, all of those pieces, and going, how can I actually just ensure I can scale my business in the pre-stay part of the guest journey? Those tools are so affordable. Like, we're talking like less than the cost of going out for dinner per month. You can actually start to put those tools in that allow you to go from 2 to 5 to 10 doors, or to actually get out of your business and spend more time like in your business, right? Or building your business and ensuring that the guests have a great stay and meeting them at the door and all these kind of things. And the technology is actually is scaling in the background, right? And that's the most exciting thing for I think all of us, is building those solutions. I'd love to know where you both think 12 to 24 months, where this is all going, right? Obviously, coming out of COVID, we've seen a huge adoption of technology. We've sort of seen the floodgates have opened. All of these vendors have come into the market. Owner operators are confused. They don't know where to start. There's fragmentation. It's all out there. what are we going to see? Is it a survival of the fittest? Are we going to see even more folks coming into the market? What are we going to? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Do we want to go positive or negative?
Positive, and throw in some negative if you need
to. Okay, so I think that inflation is going to have the biggest impact on this market, as it's having on every single other market. So I think that is the external economic force that we need to be watching out for. I think as inflation rises and people's salaries, especially what we're seeing in the UK, get more squeezed, I think that they're going to have to make difficult decisions about where they spend their really hard-earned cash. And I think that you're going to see more people hosting, which means there's going to be more supply, which is a good thing. It's a good thing for everyone because it enables more people to really see the benefits of hosting and kind of what a great way it is to make some cash, but also a way of meeting guests and kind of sharing experiences and all those kind of good, fluffy kind of things.
Yeah.
But it means you're going to get a load more people coming into the short stay market who would kind of otherwise have gone to hotels or paid a little bit more, or who see the value prop in short-term rentals.
Yeah.
So I think that there's going to be a kind of the two balances between seeing a load more kind of unprofessional hosts get involved in this market, and therefore as a more professional property manager now, you know, your role is to put in place the processes and procedures to help you stand out, to make your guests feel more comfortable, to make them feel that what you're doing is not so cowboy, and to make sure that you have got your years of experience tapped into in order to help you produce the right demand. So I see tough times ahead, Steve, I have to say, but I think that, you know, this is where tech comes in, because what's going to help you get through it, having the right and the best technology at your fingertips to help you. That is what I truly believe.
Sebastian?
Yeah, I mean, I share some of what Humphrey said, which is, you know, there are some challenges around there, right? COVID is still not gone, right? And I don't know on what wave. I stopped counting what wave we're on, right? It's getting messy. But what we've seen in at least in some parts of this of the world is that with every sort of crisis that we had, there were some other that had opportunities. I'll give you a couple of examples. One was, you know, at least in North America and the US, it was the summer of the Great American Road Trip in 2021 and in 2020. And people were not flying, they weren't getting on the plane, but they were still vacationing because they wanted to connect with people and have great experiences together. And I do think some of that will continue to exist. There will be resilience, and there will be, you know, people who would want to get together as families and friends and experience Scotland and experience the world as they can. But we will travel shorter distances. I don't think that we will be open to crossing borders as much because, you know, air travel, I'm waiting for that fuel surcharge to come back at some point. Some of you may remember that. Yeah. But with that comes new opportunities. And we do have to figure out how to cater to a local customer, how to cater to, you know, a new segment of customer that we may not be catering to right now. And in some cases, there may be the working from home community or the digital nomads. So I think being nimble around that offers opportunities to address some of the challenges that Humphrey is absolutely spot on, right? I just trying to get you a little bit more positive perspective, because I do think there's opportunity out there. We just need to capture it.
Seb, the positivity is that holidays are so important, as they quite rightly should be, to everyone. Like those moments that you get on holiday are the ones you remember. That is why we do what we do. And those aren't going to go away. You know, people's funding will be brought down. Hosts will likely make a little bit less money in the longer term. But ultimately, I'll say it again, where they can keep their margins the same is by using the right tech. And for all you tech phobes out there, you've got to get over it. You've got to embrace it. Like, try it. And, you know, move PMS, for goodness sake. Like, don't be beholden to your PMS. Like, if you've never used Cloudbeds before, now's the time to give it a go, simply because you're going to get a great deal. Like, you know, Seb will give you a great deal.
Okay, all right, and a spreadsheet is not a PMS, right?
Either is a logbook and a pencil. Yeah, no, that's great. I think, you know, I think the inflation one's a huge point. I think that, you know, again, when you're looking at how do you scale your business when there is going to be some headwind, for sure. How do you ensure that you drive repeat bookings, that the repeat bookings that you get don't come through the OTAs, that they contacted the property owner directly, and that you can start to, you know, own a little bit more of your revenue streams. I think that technology, again, is the most cost efficient way to do this. There's no doubt about it. It's you know, and the one thing I do want everyone to leave today knowing is that, you know, you've got 3 guys on this call who, you know, we're not talking about solutions that are going to put you out of pocket to the point where you're going to have to, you know, remortgage your home to pay for the technology in your vacation rental. We're talking about, you know, a very it's a small investment in the grand scheme of things to make these things come to life. And I think that is the most important message here. The last thing I wanted to, you know, talk to you guys about is, so we've seen this sort of for the 1 year, the 2 year kind of time frame. What about, give me the next wave? What is the next thing that hasn't been accomplished yet? Are we, you know, AI, ML, you know, crypto, blockchain? I don't know. Like, where is this thing? Are there solutions that have not come to market yet that you kind of see going, that might be the next frontier. That might be the next interesting thing for this industry?
I can nerd out if you want me to, right? I mean,
give me 30
some
seconds of your best nerding out.
Okay, so if I nerd out, I will talk about the decentralized identity. There are some really interesting talks around creating this identity in order to accommodate for both privacy regulation as well as, you know, the ability to share and authenticate identities. What excites me as a user is that you can control what data is shared. What excites me as a host, a hotelier, is that I can actually access Humphrey's personal information directly, and I can keep having a conversation with him long term, because, you know, Humphrey will give me access to his personal email address, and I can continuously have a conversation with him using a tool like Operto or any other tool. So discussions around that are right now starting. I think there's a few European governments that are sort of making a foray in that area. But I think there's, so look up self-sovereign identity. It's a blockchain powered technology. It's very nerdy as it can be, but you asked for something nerdy,
sure.
Right?
Okay.
Forward looking. I'll use that.
And Seb, just to say, you know, that is something which Superhog is going to enable. You know, people are able to take their Superhog identities and trade them wherever they go across all vacation rentals, which will save them loads of money. But
I
Steve,
didn't know that, but of course you were, because you're leading the charge. I love it.
we love that idea of, yes, owning their data in this space. Look, for me, it's not so much about vacation rentals, okay, but I just love self-driving cars, because, you know, who doesn't like a little trip to the Scottish pub next to the lock for them to drive back is difficult. So, you know, where I think we're going is we're going to see full automation of vehicles, which is going to really enhance guest experience. It's going to be better for the environment. It's going to bring in a load of interesting developments. And you know, what else is that going to achieve? We'll have to wait and see.
All right, gentlemen, thank you for that. I'm going to wrap it up with one last thing. So Canada recently qualified for the World Cup soccer for the first time since 1986. Humphrey, I don't even know if you knew that. We have drawn, last time in 1986, we went to the tournament. We didn't score a single goal, and supposedly we barely made it into the opponent's half. This time we're drawn with our friends at Belgium, Croatia, and Morocco. Humphrey, because you're going to get a biased answer from Sebastian and myself, what do you think Canada's chances are of advancing out of the pool stages? And will we finish better than England?
You will not finish better than England, and your chances of progressing out of the pool stages are probably around 0.5%. But there's a chance, and so boy, would I look to indulge in focusing on that chance.
Well, when I see you next month in London, I'll be sure to bring you a supporter's jersey so that you can watch all the pool games and head to the local pub for a few pints. So that's excellent. Gentlemen, we're out of time for now. Thank you so much for joining. We do have a live Q&A that's going to be happening. Unfortunately, due to time zones, I won't be on there, and we do have other folks from our companies going to be jumping in and helping answer your questions. Guys, thank you so much for joining. I hope everyone at home has taken something from this talk. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself, Humphrey, Sebastian, or anyone on the Q&A panel, and we're more than happy to help you navigate the technology landscape and really put in some of these tools to help you operate your business. So gentlemen, on behalf of the panel, I'd love to thank everyone for their time and energy today and thoughts, and we'll see you all soon. Thank you so much.
That was such a great session. Thank you, Humphrey, as the one person on
the panel.
Good
morning, gentlemen. Lovely to have you here. My name is Steve Davis. I'm the CEO.
There we go. Humphrey, thank you for being here live and being awake and stuff. But thank you to all three of you for a really, really inspiring session. It's kind of really difficult, I think, in Scotland at the moment. We're also kind of concerned about what's happening with legislation, that some of us can't concentrate on that because they're concentrating on literally the here and now. And you know, in Scotland we have got the perfect storm of inflation, as you quite rightly say, COVID, Brexit, rising costs of doing business, fuel, etc., plus some really heavy legislation coming our way. So we need to be mindful when we talk about technology. It's just yet another thing to think about. But what we wanted to be really clear about is that, as you three have just so eloquently put, there's such huge opportunities with technology, and you don't need to suddenly completely change your entire business model, but it's about kind of looking out there and seeing what options there are and adopting not necessarily huge technology changes, but adopting Superhog, or, you know, looking at keyless locks or whatever it is to actually really make a material difference to your business. So yeah, really incredibly valuable to learn how technology can change the guest experience, but also the business owner's experience. So one question that frequently comes up, and I think I'll put this to everyone, and by the way, welcome to Stephanie and Maya. Thank you so much for representing Aperto and Cloudbeds in a slightly more reasonable timescale. If you're moving to a contactless model, how do we ensure that we don't lose that kind of important personalized human touch, which somebody's also said in the chat? You know, we're in hospitality, so it's really important to get the balance right. Perhaps I'll start with Humphrey.
Thanks, Fiona. I mean, my view is that, and this will be a little bit controversial, I guess, is that actually it all depends on the guest. and a large number of guests certainly coming into this space don't expect a personal experience when they turn up and stay at a property. They actually are now more comfortable with a slightly more unpersonal but more professional experience. So they, I guess that you're maybe, and there'll be more people on this call who will be able to tell me really what is what, but certainly from my experiences of hosting, I get a number of guests who say simply, I don't really want to see you. I just want to come, I want to stay, I want to enjoy my holiday, and then I'm going to leave. And that is what they want. I say it is a minority of guests who say, I want to come and chat to you and, just talk about nonsense for 20 minutes every day. So for me, the most important thing is making sure you're there when needed, but otherwise you work in the background. And I'd say that's the trend from COVID that we've seen, is that actually, hospitality is about providing ideas, opening doors, welcoming, and then stepping into the background. So I think when we look at providing that professional service, actually not meeting the guests is no longer the number one priority as a host. But I'd love to hear others' views on that, because I think that is slightly controversial, coming out and saying that is no longer a part of hosting, because I'm sure that it depends on the experience that you set out to give guests.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think COVID has obviously driven that contactless approach. And that's not to say that you're not being welcoming. How you professionally welcome your guests and give them everything that they need to have an amazing experience is the important thing. But as you say, do you need to be standing on the doorstep to welcome them? I don't know. Maya, what are your thoughts on that?
Hi, everyone, and thank you for having me. In regards to personalization of a customer journey, the fact that we made a couple of processes contactless doesn't really mean that we should have no interaction with our guests. And the fact that we're giving them an option to have either or is a type of personalization as well. There's the personalization of a guest experience, I believe, starts with how we offer a property to the guests, which channels we represent ourselves on, whether we allow bookings through Facebook, whether we offer different rate plans, packages, whether we ask for special requirements at entry. And the fact that they can check in late or early is just basically streamlining the process to enable a more enjoyable experience for everybody. The fact of, while customizing an experience, you can also ask guests for their preferences, like somebody likes more pillows or a higher temperature. This is something you can save for the next time that they arrive and have it already prepared. This is a fully customized experience that the guests will enjoy and reference on later on as having a rounded experience of everything that they need. So it actually gives you more opportunity to personalize customer stay if you have all this data and an overview of what people prefer.
That's a really, really good point, actually. That's a really good point. I've been a self-catering host for 20 years now, and actually I'm seeing this myself. I've done it for 18 years until COVID happens, and then suddenly we're flipping into a different way of doing things. And actually I'm finding myself that using increasing technology is really helping me understand my customers better, which at some point is going to grow my business. Stephanie, any thoughts on that from your angle?
Yeah, definitely. Hi, everyone. So I guess I would second definitely what was said here. And first of all, I don't think, especially in a post-COVID world, that guests necessarily expect someone to be on site all the time. And what our tech is going to do here is really going to take part, taking the transactional tasks out of the picture. And, it will, those tasks don't really value to the guests. Like, you don't need to have someone handing on keys. You don't need to have someone verifying your ID in person. Maybe you're coming late to the property, maybe you're tired after a long trip, and it's just like providing like ease to guests with those transactional tasks that don't really add value. But then at the same time, when you're using tech, you're like freeing a lot of time to focus on the tasks that really matter to your guests. You know, you're gonna be able to provide them with better communication using the guest app, and they're gonna feel like you're here to support them. And you're gonna just make sure that you focus on what matters to them to make them have a great stay, and not only on the small transactional tasks that you have to do.
Absolutely. So interestingly, Gary's put in the chat that move to a digital guest book has probably been one of the main benefits of technology and frequently praised by guests. I absolutely concur with that. I moved over to our friends over at Touchstay, in fact, recently, and it's been brilliant. Guests love it. So what do you think, final question, what do you think is the single biggest benefit to owners when automating their processes? Is it to their own business, or is it to the experience of the guests? What do you think? Stephanie, I'll come back to you.
Yeah, definitely I would say like all you're doing it for your guests, and you're using tech as a tool to help you serve your guests better. So, you know, once more, when you're choosing to go with tech, you're doing a long-term investment for your business, and ultimately to provide your guests with the best-in-class accommodation, to streamline your communication, to feel, you know, guests are gonna feel safe. They're gonna have a personalized way to enter your property. They're gonna know that their background has been checked, so they're gonna be feeling confident staying at your property. And ultimately, all the tech that you're gonna choose, and I know it was talked about during the presentation, but it doesn't mean you have to have all the tech. You pick what fits your business, what fits the size of your business, what fits the type of guest that you have, and you're just ultimately creating the best experience for them using that tech. So definitely the guest is at the center of everything you should do.
Really wise words. Absolutely concur. What about you, Maya? What are your thoughts on that?
Single biggest benefit, I think with these integrated technologies, the single bigger benefit is analysis of data and being proactive. So knowing your customers, knowing what they prefer, and then acting upon it proactively rather than reactively, which seems to be an experience and a trend with people don't use tech much. You know, they wait until they see the bad reviews and then they start acting. With all this technology that we have right now, we can actually analyze the data and set things in process, so we get the best customer experience, we save loss and cost, and we can streamline our operations for the better of our property and future.
Fantastic. And finally, Humphrey, giving you the last word, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I love a controversial panel. I don't think it is about the guest. I think the guest benefits, but I think it's all about you, the property manager. I think that's why you implement technology. You don't do it for someone else. You do it for you. You do it to make more money. You do it to save yourselves hassle. And there's really good arguments that by implementing something for the guest, you save yourself more hassle. But I think you implement tech for you, for your business, because it fits what you need. It fits a whole, either that you've identified or that is recurring, and ultimately is going to do one of two things. It's either going to make you more money, or it's going to save you cash and increase your margin somewhere else. And you know, that is what good tech does. And my very final last word would be, you know, whichever technology you're using, there are always alternatives out there. And it is in your best interests to speak to the alternatives, because that is how you're going to save and make more money by switching, by threatening to switch, by getting another agreement, by just doing a little bit of sweat and grunt work in order to be able to say, hey, these guys have offered me this, what can you do?
I do love a controversial panel. I do love having you on it, Humphrey, always. So thank you so much. Just to end on a positive, I think you might find that lots of people on this call will be supporting Canada, not England. Did I say that? I'm so sorry. But no, thank you so much for a brilliant session, and thanks to the three of you for coming on and answering some questions. I would absolutely encourage people to get in touch with all of these guys to talk about the opportunities and how they can help your business and indeed your guests at the same time. And yeah, thanks all of you for joining us. Thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye bye.